we will get you all the details today on the new C3 and also where we reckon the company will be positioning it. Is the new Citroën C3 a hatchback, a crossover, an MPV or a subcompact SUV? The answer is, it's a little bit of everything, but not officially, because as far as a French car maker is concerned, the C3 is globally the name given to its B segment hatch. And so, given that it's a volumes model for India and also a B hatch, the Citroën C3 it is. But it is intended to take on a slew of entry models across segments, and so it has a mix of attributes from all those very segments. I am in sunny and humid Goa to test the car, and as you can see, we have both engine variants. Platinum Grey and Zesty Orange. This particular car has the two-tone option. It is an option, so you can go for it. You have the Zesty Orange roof or you have the Platinum Grey roof. Those are the two roof options that you can get, or of course, you can go body colored. 4 colors overall. There's a silver, white, grey and orange. Now, when it comes to customizing the car, because of the sort of younger audience that Citroën wants to look for, there's going to be lots to play with. So, you have 56 customization options, according to the company from word go, and 70 accessories that you can configure. Now, if you don't want to do that yourself, well, there are 3 packs, customization packs, that come factory fitted. One's called Vibe, one's called Energy, and one's called Elegance. It's a combination of some of these accessories. And if I start getting into what those combinations are, well, that's all I'll end up talking about. So you get the picture. So that's the kind of play that the company has here in terms of making the car really individual. Now, in terms of styling, all that works because if you look at it, yes, it has the SUV cues, it has the proportions, the height, the sort of bulk, and it really is good looking. Very Citroën in its face. You've got that absolutely unmistakable design language with the split headlamp and the DRLs, which have the chevron pattern. It's something that got established with the C5, maybe not well enough, but yes, those who've seen a C5 here in India would recognize this as Citroën. At the back, the car does tend to look like many others because, you know, this sort of chunky rear SUV looking crossover stance, you've seen that in so many cars, right from the Quid upwards, a lot of the more recent subcompact SUVs as well. But that probably is intentional because they want you to think of this as an SUV. They're not calling it one because it isn't. It is going to be positioned as a hatchback with all of these cues, the cladding and the big wheels that make it stand out. Now, what are the things that I don't like? Because I do think it's a very good looking car. Well, alloy wheels, not standard. 15-inch tires and wheels, of course, is a good thing. But the lack of alloys, that is optional. You can get it as one of those 70 accessories. The other thing is the door handles. It's very 1990s, these clamshell handles. It's a bit of a cost-saving reason, I'm guessing, why they've gone with that. But yeah, it looks a little archaic. Nice chunky grab handles would have looked better, in my opinion. But otherwise, there are some nice details like the little depth and layering in the tail light, and also these little orange accents that you see everywhere that complement the two-tone effect that the car has. So really good looking car. It's going to get a lot of attention, but smartly done in ways to try and conceal some of the cost saving. But I'm not talking about cost saving like it's a bad thing, because you know what, at the end of the day, it benefits you if the sticker price is attractive. Having said that, I mean, I'm happy to let go of some creature comforts, but letting go of a rear defogger or a rear wiper, at least as an option, to me that's a bit of a problem because that could be a safety issue, right? Like you need those things sometimes from a practical reason. The little Citroën design detail in the side cladding is a nice touch. The C3 is the first of the smart car platform cars. It's a volume strategy from Citroën. So this platform will give us different cars, more body styles going forward. But it's not just the car platform, it's also the engine, the drivetrain that we have to think about. Because with this car, we get 2 options there as well. Both are 3-cylinder petrol. This one's naturally aspirated. This one is turbocharged, 1.2-litre engines, 2 different manual gearboxes to go with these 2, but no automatic for now, says the company. The for now part becomes important. So it is going to be a volumes play. Let's find out why Citroën didn't just go with one engine. So while I know I should be starting with the less powerful variant, I'm jumping into the turbo first anyway. Citroën says that it's really worked hard on making the air conditioning very effective, the cooling very, very fast, especially for the Indian conditions. It's a pretty muggy and hot day here in Goa, and I can tell you, it is working really well. The downside to that is that the blower speeds, you have the blower on 1 right now, that's 2, that's 3. Okay, I'm kidding. That's 4. It just is really, really loud and noisy. Overall, I think that's a bit of a weak point for the car. NVH levels in general, not just this fan, but even wind noise and some of what I'm hearing from outside could have been better damping on that. But now let's get to the good part. And there is one. In fact, there's more than one. This engine puts out a sprightly 108 bhp. Not the most powerful hatch, but don't forget this is a 3-cylinder engine. Torque is generous and the mileage is good, but far from segment best. The gearbox is a 6-speed manual only. I am driving the turbo right now, and you know what? This is a peppy, fun, quick, fast engine. It really gives you a nice sense of performance. It is very responsive, and it's mated beautifully to the 6-speed gearbox. The gearbox is actually really one of the highlights for me. But speaking of highlights, it's time to say oui, mademoiselle, because there was this claim, there was this big promise, there was this huge hype around comfort class, right? With the C5 Aircross, there was a promise that was made to the market that this is Citroën, this is who we are. So will this small little entry car also be able to live up to that promise? Suspension, suspension, suspension. The ride quality on this car is absolutely terrific. You will love it. It is smooth, it is very comfortable, and the sense of refinement that gives you, what Citroën likes to call a sense of comfort, that's going to be the USP of this car. I was hoping for it. I partially thought that, you know, how much can they do in this small footprint? The answer to that? A lot. The car will surprise you with how comfy it feels and is on the road, even on bad roads, over potholes and speed breakers too. What a revelation. The front suspension is a McPherson strut with a coiled spring, while at the back it's a rear twist beam layout. And while it does not have the famed hydraulic cushion USP that the C5 does, it has been tuned brilliantly. The steering could have been a bit sharper, but the car's brakes are good. It's disc brakes up front and drums at the rear though. It is similar on the other variant. But before I switch cars, a look at the cabin. There will be 2 trims on offer, and the same will be possible on both engine types. And everything you see here is the higher trim across both engines. Funky, young and fun. The layout and the overall color palette and design in here is actually quite nicely done. I mean, you know what? This is going to be a budget car, but the good news is that it doesn't come across like that. The plastics, the way they've been finished, the feel, the overall, you know, sense of material quality is pretty good. You have this zesty orange insert here. You only get that dash option on the two-tone where you have the orange roof, or on the grey monotone car. You don't get it on anything else. All other cars have something called anodized grey. Go figure. It's just a slightly different shade of grey than the rest of the plastics. It's a nice element. It looks like it would be soft to the touch. It isn't, but it's nicely finished. I'm happy with the material quality there. The AC vents have a little bit of that Citroën air bump kind of feel, so they go with the overall quirky styling of Citroëns. There's a little parcel tray down here, like a little shelf. That's also finished off in a metallic tone. Basic air conditioning, you don't have a climate control option. 1 USB point here. Lots of storage space and different sort of shelves here, which is kind of interesting. It's a little bit of a deep storage down there, and there's storage here below the handbrake lever. The steering wheel, intentionally designed as being a little compact, says Citroën, because they feel like it's going to help with maneuverability. There's an under 5 meter turning circle. Now, the instrument cluster is really tiny. It is monochrome, but it is digital. It gives you some basic information, but it's not sort of something that's exciting. In this day and age, you do expect that to be a little bit sexier, a little bit more exciting. Now, you've got the option here of dead switches, which means at a future point or in a different model or a different variant in the future, you could get some more optional buttons here. There's also a dead switch down here on the dash panel, which means, again, in the future, maybe a start-stop button could appear there because it's a round dead switch. There is no dead pedal here, which is a little disappointing for me because that makes driving a little bit uncomfortable. That should have been considered. Now, a quick word about the stuff that matters to most of you, and that is all the infotainment and connectivity options. A 10-inch touchscreen, which is nice and big and really stands out. It's well finished too, I have to say. And then a few little other add-ons, some nice little segment firsts as well. Wireless, Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. I love that because it means you don't have to use a cable. But if you want to use a cable, this is a nice little thing as well. The way that the housing of the air conditioning has been designed, it has these two little clips, so you can loop your cable, and there's a little niche here for you to have the add-on accessory which can keep your smartphone clamped in, and in goes your charging cable. Or even if you're charging the phone down here, again, you can just plug it in, stick it into this slot, and you don't have messy, dangly cables messing everything up or coming in the way of your gear shift. So that's a nice thing. The screen itself is nice and responsive. We'll have more details on it separately, of course, in our tech review. But everything about it in terms of functionality and usage is nice and easy. The graphics are pretty smartly done. And like I said, the connectivity option with your smartphone is also nice. The whole wireless point is good, but there is no wireless charger though. As long as there's no huge compromise on safety or dynamics, you can't always question some of the cost-saving measures in cars, right? Some of them are actually pretty intelligently done. But you know what? In day-to-day usage, there are a few things that could become minor irritants or just annoying points, like the central locking on this car. It has central locking, but then, you know, you've got to flick this little lock-unlock switch when your door is shut. And that's, so there's no button. There's no like one quick way to do it. Also, in most cars today, when the car is locked, you just got to yank this twice and then the car unlocks. At least that particular door does. In this case, that doesn't happen. You got to remember to unflick that for all the doors to unlock. It's a little minor point, I know, but yes, it can become an irritant in daily usage. Another irritant, something we've almost forgotten about, these little manually adjusting mirrors. Most cars these days, at least at the top end, have those electric mirrors. This doesn't. That's okay. I don't question that to a large extent. But again, something that some people might need to get used to. Back here is where you get that sense of space because you know what? It is spacious and that's been smartly designed, smartly done. Great amount of headroom. Pretty good on legroom too. I mean, I've got the two seats adjusted just about in the middle, but it's a good long rail of adjustment on that front seat, so you can get yourself to be pretty comfortable. Now, maybe I can't stretch my legs or, sit lavishly with them crossed, but it is not bad. It's actually pretty roomy and quite generous. Now, back here you don't get an AC vent for the rear seat, but you have 2 USB points. That's something that I think a lot of people will value. A little cumbersome to reach out for the power window switches that are here in the middle. I don't know why a lot of these budget models think that that's the way to go. I know it's a cost saving, but it's like too obvious a cost saving. I would have really preferred to have it over here, especially now in 2022. Okay, the seat itself, quite comfortable, nicely done. I love the back angle. I love the fact that they've really thought about the H point, the hip to the leg ratio. And I'm sitting very comfortably. Under thigh support is pretty good too. That was a surprise to me. I didn't expect that. Seat angle and overall height is also kind of SUV-like. You don't feel like you're sitting in a small hatchback. And there is theater-style seating, according to Citroën, which means that there's an intentional uplifting of this seat so that even people sitting at the back get a nice panoramic view of the exterior environment. That's smartly done. The only little catch there, I feel, is that it's not really that wide. So it's great for two people because there's a nice little angle and contouring of this bolster. But if you have a third person, an adult in the middle, then you're going to kind of squish over to the side, and this little bolstering is going to eat into your back just a tiny bit. No drop down armrest option either, and it's still overall, I think it's the sense of space and the actual space that become the USP in the back. One little grouse I have, and that's not just with Citroën, because you know what, the market regulation doesn't require it. Lap belt for the middle passenger. I don't know when we're going to get 3-point seat belts at the back. It's something that we keep petitioning the policymakers. So Mr. Gadkari, that's something that has to happen before 6 airbags can happen. The naturally aspirated engine is also a 1.2-litre 3-cylinder unit. It makes 80 bhp and torque is substantially lower than on the turbo model, but very much on par with rival hatches. The gearbox is a 5-speed manual here. Now, of course, everybody's going to say this car feels underpowered, etc. Only when you also make a direct comparison to the turbo. There's no doubt about that. You are going to have that little comparison going on in your head, even if you try very hard not to. So, what's the point I'm trying to make? The engine isn't underpowered, but it lacks pep. The difference in what I'm trying to say is that, you get a sense of heft, as if something is holding it back. To me, that's a little bit of a problem, but you know what? For most average users and buyers, it's not going to be a problem, because the good news, it's very refined. It comes across as refined. And now for the great news, the gearbox. It's really, really good. It's been mated nicely to the engine. Good quick gear changes, and again, very refined. The ride quality, exactly like the one on the turbo, so no difference there, and that remains the huge trump card. Beautiful ride quality, great suspension. Overall, that whole sense of comfort and refinement shines through on this car, but yeah, it's a tad boring. Now, if the whole idea was that, hey, this is going to be the cheaper engine, there's going to be a huge disparity in price, we'll wait and see. Maybe that's the reason why they picked this engine, because usually when you have a naturally aspirated and a turbo, the whole point is pricing and mileage. The weird thing here is, while the mileage numbers are good, there's only a 0.4 decimal, like 4 decimal points difference between the two of them. So yeah, at least then, this one should have had maybe higher mileage, like way more than 20 or 21 kilometers per liter. But having said that, 19.8 is not bad at all. Sure, the Maruti Suzuki Swift boasts 23.20 kilometers per liter, and you've got good numbers from the Hyundai Grand i10 and Tata Punch, amongst other rivals. But I still think it's a good sign that Citroën has not compromised vehicle weight in the pursuit of fuel efficiency bragging rights. While body panels like the hatch door do feel tinny, on the whole the car feels reasonably sturdy. Citroën promises good structural build, but we'll have to wait for a crash test to know just how robust it is. So all this is very well and good. Where is the big problem? Now, it's not this engine. It's not even the whole point about, where the cost cutting has happened, etc. The big problem for me, no automatic transmission. Now, I got a very muted response to that question. I asked lots of people at Citroën this question that, hey, where's the automatic? And, I got little murmurs and little mumbly replies, because there's a general admission that there should have been one. There's a general admission that there will be one at some point. Wait and see, we'll do more things in the future. But when? No admission on that. So it seems like we should have one by next year. It should have been here at launch. And here's why. This is a car that competes in a very competitive segment. In that segment, the offtake for automatics has gone from 15 to almost 20%, depending on the model. Car like the Grand i10, for example. So you could really shine, because, that's an AMT. Tata Punch, AMT. Even a Baleno, AMT. You could have a very nice automatic in this particular car that shines above those. And now comes the second part. 15 to 20% of the whole portfolio, you think, okay, I'm still playing in 80% or 85% of the market. But Citroën doesn't have the network of Hyundai or Tata or Maruti. And so the cities that it is present in, well, guess what? That 15% automatic, that demand comes from the big cities. That's where Citroën's playing. So its buyer pool is actually way more skewed towards automatic than what it might think. So not having it at the start, big miss. Bringing an auto next year will be late, in my opinion. There really should have been one at the start. And by the way, I also checked out the ride quality and comfort in the back seat while the car was on the move. So time for a bottom line. I think it's all about the positioning. I said that in my first impression. I'm going to say it again. There's lots of things to like about this car. There's lots of things that you might find fault with. It'll come down to pricing. So where should Citroën really put this car in terms of price? Well, $1 million question, or maybe a 4.5 lakh rupee question. Because if you look at the market today, this will have to take on everything from a quid at one end to a Kiger at the other end in many ways, because at buyer, they overlap on all of these different segments. Maybe even the Baleno and the i20 buyer might be interested. Does that mean that it should be premium in its pricing? No, I think the whole idea should be to say, hey, you get all of this big car, modern, nice little gadgets, good amount of connectivity and tech, and some great looks and design, but for prices that you can't believe. So I feel it should be priced at about 4.5 lakh rupees starting. If it can go lower than that, some people are saying 3.99. That may be a little bit tough to do, but 4.5 lakh rupees starting would be an absolute cat amongst the pigeons, and topping off under 6 lakh rupees for everything, the alloy wheels and the works. So yeah, the turbo could start around 5,75,000 rupees. But with the lower powered version, the play really needs to be aggressive. Given the cost savings, clear innovations like those two engines, and even some glaring omissions, that price should be gettable for Citroën. Tell us how you like the C3 and your take on pricing too. Leave us a comment on this video. It's so weird for me to be sitting at the back. It's so weird for me to finish a story sitting at the back. Well, it's always nice to try new things, I suppose. Some cost-saving measures, you can't really question them, or you can't bear it's gone now. Ooh, sorry. Oh, come on, how many of these rumble strips are going to be here? Go slow. Fine, I'm going slow. The two-tone option, only available at the top end. We still don't know the light changes again.